On episode 281 of the Tennis Files podcast, you'll learn about the top 8 tennis goals that you should set for 2023 with Peter Freeman. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. And I'm really pleased to have Peter Freeman on this episode of the show. We talk about the top 8 tennis goals that you should have for 2023. I really enjoyed this chat. We went back and forth with our top goals, and they're ones that you really should work on. I mean, I would, as I usually do, recommend picking one or two of them, but these are all really good ones. I obviously don't want to give them away before the episode, but they definitely involve a lot of thinking, brainstorming, planning, and most importantly of all, implementing, taking action. So I think you'll really enjoy this discussion with Peter about it. And I also do really highly encourage you, and I'm excited to let you know about TennisCon Live, which is happening from March 30th to April 2nd. And this one will involve a live clinic, essentially, in Tampa. And I will actually be there. So really an honor to be invited to this event. And I'll be teaching alongside Pete, Gigi Fernandez, Kevin Garlington, Ryan Reedy, and several other fantastic coaches. So definitely looking forward to it. And if you want to check it out, go to tennisfiles.com/tennisconlive to apply. So yeah, that is definitely something I'd love for you to do if you can make it and meet you in person and give you as much value as we possibly can. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Pete and myself for this episode of the show. And I hope you really enjoy this discussion on the top 8 tennis goals that you should have for 2023. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I have my favorite guest of all time with me, my great friend Peter Freeman from Crunch Time Coaching. Fantastic content there. You should always check out every day. So, Pete, how are you doing?
You say that to all the guests, don't you?
No, go back to my podcast episodes. I don't say that. I mean, I say that to check it out, but I mean, every day, that's a lot. I mean, I've only said
I really appreciate it. I'm looking very forward to this call, this podcast.
Very forward. Excellent. I appreciate it. Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, really excited today to chat with you, Pete. I mean, you always bring out the great information for us to help improve our games. And yeah, today we're just going to talk about, I think, 8 goals that we should have in mind to help us improve. So I think you can, hopefully at least take one or two of these at first and try to accomplish them, and you'll probably do really well and improve your skills and level as a result. So, Pete, let's kick it off with your first item.
Yeah, so I just thought this would be a great time to do this because we're heading into 2023, and now is the time. I think I always love November, December to really just kind of just look at what the last year has been and where I want to go, and I think it's a great thing to apply to tennis. So, this is really for 2023 goal setting. And I think what's the most important thing to write down so that it really keeps you focused and be able to attain your goals is to write down. So if you're listening to this and you got a pen or paper, write this down. What is your why? Why are you playing tennis? Really think about that. Just don't write something down quick. Like take 5 minutes to think about, well, why do I play tennis? And is it to get just exercise? Is it to you just love competing and you want to win more matches? Have you been stuck at a certain level and it's just super important to you to either just start dominating that level or get to the next level? Like, what is it for you? What gets you motivated to lace up those shoelaces and head to the court? So that would be the first goal, is just to really understand your why and then build all your goal setting around that why.
I like that, Pete. And yeah, it's just really important to do that because there's going to be a lot of times where we don't feel like, going out to practice, maybe it's, I don't know, too cold, or you got a show that you'd prefer to watch, things like that. You feel laziness. And that, I mean, that happens to me all the time. We're creatures of comfort, just natural, biologically speaking. So, especially in times like that, if we remember why, the why, it's so important. I think there was a book too called something about, it's like Finding Your Why or something, but the author is Simon Sinek. Really good book. So I'll try to link that in the show notes page. But I definitely often think about this when I'm hesitant to keep going because yeah, it can be tough. So have you ever had any instances of needing to find your why in times of tough times, or are you just a machine, Peter?
No, absolutely. Lots of times I will ask myself, why, or just remind myself why I'm doing something, because it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You're always going to have those obstacles come up to where it just gets super frustrating and things aren't going the way you want them to go. And then you got to remember that really the journey, if you love why you're doing something, that's the key. If you really love why you're doing something, the journey is part of the process, and there's always going to be ups and downs. There's never just ups. And if you're dedicated and focused, there's never just downs. And that was another goal that I wanted to talk about is that Novak. So another goal you should have is you should make it a goal to enjoy the process. Novak Djokovic, who just won the year-end championships again for like the bazillionth time, somebody asked him, well, when does he have an end goal in mind? Why is he still playing? Was the question. Why are you still playing? And is there a certain number of championships or whatever or an age that you're trying to get to that's going to be it? And his answer was none of that he just loves tennis, which I thought was great. He says, I love tennis and I love everything about it. He says, even when I'm not playing, I love to watch tennis. I love to be on the court with my kids with tennis. It's like everything. And he said, winning the championships, that of course you would never want to stop. But the question that he's going to have to answer someday is, does he still enjoy the process of going out there to get ready to compete? Because he says, really, that's really what it's all about. And he says, and I still enjoy everything about that. I still enjoy the practices and what it takes to get to the level to be the champion that he is. And so his answer is basically, as long as I enjoy doing that and feel that I'm doing that at a high level, I'm not going to stop. And right now he feels great. So I thought that was an awesome answer from him.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing him, speak after his matches, and I think that's one thing in particular. Maybe you all should be doing as well. Like when the greats especially play, like listen to them speak because they have a lot of great nuggets in there. I feel like your first two are intertwined because you want to make it a goal to enjoy the process, but then sometimes you're gonna again get to that point where things are tough, and then you have to remember your why, and then that can help you enjoy the process. I mean, luckily for me at the moment, and hopefully a lot of you, just like the simple ability in thinking of gratitude to like play the game is just so enjoyable as well. And there was another thing that Novak said in one of his press conferences, and I mentioned this a bit with my interview with Nick Saviano, but Novak was asked like how he was able to get through one of his matches. I'm trying to remember who it was against. Might have been Tsitsipas, maybe.
Was it Medvedev?
Sorry, Medvedev. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like shaking during the match. It was ridiculous. But and so Novak, one thing he said, and I think I do want to actually, I plan to make this one of my goals, is to try to stretch your comfort zone. Because Novak said that he said, well, he was asked like, how are you able to like push yourself to the limits? And Novak said that I believe there are no limits, which is like incredible, and And this makes me think of David Goggins, who wrote "Can't Hurt Me," and he says when you hit what you think is your max threshold, you've only hit 40%. So it's really in your mind as far as like being able to keep pushing, and you can do little tricks as well. Like sometimes well, actually, I don't jog as much these days, but when I used to do some long distance running, I would trick myself into saying, all right, just, half a mile more, half a mile more. And then you kind of piecemeal it. And so your mind and body kind of get relaxed. Like, okay, just a little more. And then you tack on a little more. But I guess, and that's kind of another point into just going at things gradually, piecemealing. But I would say that stretching your comfort zone is so important because, if we stay in the comfort zone, as you all know, like you're not going to be able to improve yourself. So, and even just everyday things like maybe taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator, or going for a walk outside when it's really cold. I think these sorts of things will like mentally build you up to say, wow, I can actually push myself and go through these things that seem tough are actually not as tough. And I guess that sort of mindset can help a lot. So I would say that's one of my items I wanted to mention today.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Novak, which was very interesting, just like you said, talking about people were saying, hey, you were getting into the next round no matter what. You're already in the semis,
Yeah.
So was it a thought to even stop? And other people had in the past, not even played that match because like, why do it? And he's like, man, every time I get a chance to play against the best, I want to be on the court, and quitting was not even an option. Like it wasn't even a thought. And that is what is so cool. And then when you think about the big three, look at Rafa at Wimbledon this year against Taylor Fritz. Again, it'd be like, why are you still out there? You're obviously in pain. You're probably not going to be able to play the next match. And after the match, he said in the interview, believe it or not, I enjoy these types of matches, and most tennis players, the matches we enjoy is like when we're out there in the zone, like we just stomp on somebody 0-0 and don't miss a shot, and the ball is as big as a balloon. Rafa actually, for a lot of that match, didn't play that great. I mean, whether he just was not going to play great anyway, or because of the injury, I mean, he missed a lot of routine shots that he normally doesn't miss. So it wasn't just about like, him enjoying playing great. Like there were so many things working against him, from the way he was playing to the way he was feeling to how good his opponent was playing. And he enjoyed that all. And normally that would be like the worst nightmare for any other tennis player. Think about if I said, hey, Mehrban, tomorrow you're going to go out there. You're not going to play that great. Your opponent's going to be in the zone and you're going to be injured. Are you looking forward to tomorrow? Most people say, hell no. Like, I'll just not even play. He liked that. Roger, who lots of people just think, oh, the games have come so easy to him. There was a match versus Tennis Sandgren at the Australian Open where he was hurt and he came back and won. And he said, yep, I just tried to extend the match as long as possible and stay out there as long as I could and hope that something good would happen. Again, this is a guy injured who has so much money in the bank, doesn't need to prove one more thing, and he's out there in pain trying to stay out there as long as he can. That is different. And if we can get any little bit of that in us, we'll be doing some good things.
Yeah, it's incredible that, usually, 99% of us or more, like when we get injured, we don't want to stretch the match out. we want to just go for winners and like make it go by as quickly as possible. And another thing, Novak, again, like so crazy, like you mentioned, Novak was already 2-0. He would have advanced anyway. But I remember him saying in response to another interviewer or reporter, he said, I'm not much of a stats person. Like, I don't pay attention to the stats. And he was like, Medvedev wanted to close out the year with a win, but I wanted to beat him. And so,
right.
Again, just that, these mentalities that we both mentioned with Nadal and Djokovic and Federer, like that's why they're at the top, because they can, withstand these extremely tough times. And that's so crucial because, tennis is you're going to get into all these, tight moments, and it's how you respond in the face of adversity that makes you, who you are and how successful you are. So, that's a really great one. Pretty motivating as well. Yeah.
But I think another thing, this is goal setting And I think that people want to have honest conversations with themselves, like as we're talking about this as a tennis fan, I get like goosebumps, like I get excited, I get inspired. But when I just really evaluate, well, what's my why? Even though I'd love to go out there and, reverse the clock 20 years and be playing, in competitive tennis again, that's not my why anymore. My why is to coach. So that's another thing I want people to understand too, is like, if you're a certain age, right? If you are like 60 years old and you're listening to this, I'm 50, I just turned 50. And so as you're listening to this, don't feel guilty if you're like, well, I don't do that. My God. I mean, I guess then dig deeper. My why for playing tennis very simply is to enjoy it. Like Mehrban, if I met you, I wouldn't want to play a match with you. Whether I could win or lose, it doesn't matter. I want to hit cross courts with you. I want to have fun. I want to feel good. I want to get good exercise. I want to I love the feeling of getting in a groove with the tennis ball. And I don't want to get injured. So, I don't want to take the risk of serving with my back 2 out of 3 sets, so I'm very clear on as tempting. And that what I'm trying to say is don't be tempted by other people's goals. Just because Rafa will stay out there to the death doesn't mean that you have to. Otherwise, you're not living up to, you're not a tennis player or something like that, like know why you're playing. And that's why your why is so important, because is your why to simply, well, I do just want to win more matches and I do need that mentality and it's about winning more matches next year. Or it could be, I just want to improve my technique, or I just want to get fitter. Like, what is your why? That's why everything to me comes back to that question when people are writing their goals for next year. Because my why is not to go out there and be Novak Djokovic, it's just not anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And your why, can change and whatnot. And yeah, it was really cool hearing your why, Peter. I mean, for me, it's interesting. I guess the number one why is probably, it's tough, but improving. I just really like improving and learning from the best, like yourself and, all these great people that I've interviewed and whatnot. But fortunately, I also really enjoy just playing tennis. It's really fun striking the ball and, the relationships and being on teams. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm in a good place with it, fortunately, and but that's my whys, I guess. But yeah, it's a lot of them. So, Pete, let's go with another one of yours then.
Okay, so I want to go down to, let's say your why is that you want to improve a certain stroke, you want to get better at your technique, because you feel maybe you feel self-conscious about it. You're like, I know this shot is weak, or you want it to look like a pro, and you want to be able to implement it in matches, So now is the time. This is the best time of year to start working on this today. So let's say your goal is to improve a certain technical aspect, which a lot of people I think who go online are looking to do. How would you do that? Because I think a big mistake people make is they watch a video and then they get some good tips and then they want to actually implement it in a match, and then that backfires. So the process of actually improving your strokes, let's say you want to develop a one-hand toss and backhand. You've never been able to really do that. A ton of shadow swings. And I'm actually speaking from experience, because I had a two-hander growing up, all in juniors, college. One-hander got better and better as I kept teaching more tennis. And then eventually I wanted to switch to one-hand topspin. So I did a ton of shadow strokes in the beginning, like every chance I had. I would just, if I was waiting around for my better half, Yvonne, I would literally be waiting around just looking at shadow strokes. I would be hitting backhands in the mirror, filming yourself, doing lots of drop feeds over and over and over again, then just working that in the rallies and just rinsing and repeating that and filming yourself, and maybe staying away from competitive matches for a while, because once you get into a match, even if you say the match is not important to you, it instantly, just like I said, matches are not important to me at this aspect. But if we decide to play one day, all of a sudden matches become the most important thing in the world to me. Like, I'm not going to be able to just differentiate in my head, like, oh, I don't care about matches. Like, once you start playing, you care, if you love tennis. So if you want to improve your technique, I think you take these months, December to like March before the leagues start, and you just do it over and over again. Shadow strokes, filming yourself, bounce feeds, rally.
Yeah. No, this is great. This is great. I mean, it's the first step, I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've been, I've tried to change my technique, but like, I don't take that first step, of the shadow strokes, or maybe I remember when Pete was trying to help me with my serve, like I sent him some video, but he was like, you're already at the baseline. Like, you shouldn't be, you should be at the service line. So yeah, I mean, the progressions are really important. And, and another thing that you've said, Peter, is like, it's fine for you. Like, if you play a match, to just focus on winning, but then you go back, like in the practices, back to the prior technique, the new technique. And then eventually that's kind of how you're able to integrate it. Right.
Yeah. And that's another thing, a new thing I want to talk about. In my last couple of camps, and it just goes to show how dumb I am, that it took me this long to realize. It just hit me one day. I'm like, tennis is not a rhythm sport. Oh my God. It like blew my mind when I thought about it. Cause like every practice I've ever been involved in since I'm a kid, you go out there and you work on establishing rhythm. You start short court, then you go back to the baseline, then you hit cross courts, then you do this, then you take some serves, and then maybe you play a match. But as I would do camp after camp, and you just see that when you get drills going with points, you could start to see strokes look better. You could start to see the confidence being built. The quality of tennis would go up. And then all of a sudden you would go, okay, guys, now go play some doubles, and now that's even hard. You got two people on each side. And so many times the quality, the energy would just go way, way down. The shot making, the technique, right?
Yeah. Everything
would go away. And it just hit me as I was watching, like, why is this happening? And he'd be like, because the way the game is played, 80% of the time not hitting a ball, right? The way we train, we're almost hitting the ball 80, 90, sometimes even 100%. Even watch the pros when they play. They'll be back there at the baseline hitting. Somebody misses, the coach will feed the next ball in right away. So that's easy to get into a rhythm. Then all of a sudden you start playing a match, and 80% of the time you're not hitting a ball. That's a fact. And so now all of a sudden, and you're nervous, now all of a sudden the quality goes way down. So the next thing that I want people to practice is, let's say you work on this new stroke. That requires a lot of hitting, a lot of what I've just talked about, how we traditionally practice, hit a million shadow strokes, get in a great groove the stroke. Once it starts to get some actual wings behind it and you're getting some skill in there, now you've got to put it under pressure. And I want you to think of drills that will break your rhythm. Like one example I give is like, instead of practicing the basket serves and have the basket right beside you and hitting your serves, put the basket back by the fence. And after each serve, you got to go back and pick up another ball. You can put the ball on the ground, even better yet, because you got to pick up a ball off the ground before you serve, and just take your two balls and then start to keep score. Like, start to make yourself nervous, break your rhythm, slow everything down, rally with people, and then you can't hit another ball in for 15 seconds. This will drive you crazy. But if you want to start to be able to play like you practice, right? We always say that, like, I want to play like I practice. Well, why don't you?
Yeah.
Because no one actually practices like they're going to play. No one spends 80% of their time not hitting a ball. I think you've got to start doing this sometimes in your practice sessions. What do you think about that? It's a little controversial, I think.
I think it's brilliant. I mean, you think about doubles. I mean, singles is like worse enough with the rhythm thing. Like, doubles, all of a sudden you're cutting, you're hitting like even more. Like, sometimes like you're the net player and your partner's serving, and you might not hit a ball for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. But yeah, it's crazy. Like the other day, I actually was trying to demo a bunch of rackets, And like it was the stupidest thing. Like, so I switched rackets like mid set, and like, you know, I'd hit like one shot every couple minutes, and it was pretty terrible because I had no rhythm. So I think this is a really good point that not a lot of coaches talk about. So I think it would be good. I mean, obviously, you know, you want to get into rhythm and stuff and practices, but then once in a while you want to get used to like being cold and then still hitting the shot. So
Yeah, I would say
pretty good stuff.
the better your shots are, or the more that you have your shots, they are what they are, right? If you're trying to develop strokes, then you should hit a lot of strokes, right? Because and it's a lot of repetition, a lot of rhythm, and develop that. But if you're like, well, my strokes are my strokes, they are what they are, or you know, you've worked on developing it, now it's kind of getting to that final stage. I think what you want to do is split up your practices, but definitely dedicate some days. Like get used to it, to where you start implementing serves and returns right away. You start making drills to where, you know, there is no gray area. You know, you've got to serve, make a return, and make your first shot cross court in a certain area, like in a box, to win a point. And if you don't, you lose. Because tennis, the higher level it is, it's all about executing, especially within those first 3 or 4 balls. But we usually like think of the first 3 or 4 balls as warming up, and as we're practicing, we'll even play an out ball just so we can establish the rhythm. But you've got to have those practices where, like, no, once I miss, it's over. I don't get a second chance. It counts, you know, and I got to get used to that pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that, Pete. That's a good one. Let's see. I think I'll go with one that has some similar themes as well, because you talked about how now is really a great time to you know, improve your technique. It being, you know, pretty cold out there for a lot of us, and you know, sort of less, arguably a few less leagues going on. So mine would be to really focus on improving your fitness at this stage as well, especially with, again, you know, the holidays. Like, a lot of people tend to let themselves go and whatnot. And for me, what kind of inspired this is that I've recently been having a little bit of fitness issues with my left leg. I've had some, I've like, I guess, strained my calf, and had some heel pain and whatnot. So I really had to focus on warming up properly, and even using some calf sleeves, and yeah, just stretching a lot. And I'm also seeing the doc again next week to check out, you know, what's going on there. So yeah, I just think now is, again, a good time to make sure that you're fit, that you're ready, that you know, strength and functional strength is going to carry you, not just for tennis, but your life as well, and help with the quality of life there. And yeah, that you're eating right. I mean, obviously holidays, like, it's fine to enjoy it a few days, but as long as you get back on track, you know, that's fine. So yeah, I think that's a big one. I mean, do you have any particular thoughts on fitness? How would you rate yourself, Peter, on a fitness scale of 1 to 10 right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would give myself, I definitely could get more fit, especially if my goal was to play matches.
Right.
I would give myself a 7 out of 10 with fitness. I exercise almost every single day. As far as the way my body feels, now I'm always super tight. If you guys know that, I'm notoriously tight. But as far as the way
I've seen on Tennis Con.
yeah, but the way my body feels, it's, for me, again, it's for how Pete feels. Right now, I'm at about a 10 out of 10. I'm in very I'm in very little pain, knock on wood. I mean, that could change literally this afternoon, so I'm grateful. But I'm in very little pain on a daily basis right now. I have been stretching more. I wake up every day, even though I'm not going to do a hard workout, I at least get myself to be doing something to where you know, I'm getting going. I'm doing push-ups. I'm doing shadow strokes. I'm stretching. I'm doing something I just believe that's a great way to start the day anyway. You know, even if it's 10 minutes, it's that habit of at least going, well, at least I did something. And it does have a compounding effect, you know, as you get up every day and you do that your body feels better and it's used to moving, you know. Now, again, if I went out there and played a match, I'm definitely not in match shape. So there's a difference. That would be a completely different regimen I need to start putting myself on. But yeah, I would say overall, pretty good. And if you are somebody who loves to compete, I can tell you nothing feels better. I think everybody who can look at themselves in the mirror when you were in your best shape and working for it, you felt the most confident in your matches.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can think back to that. Just felt like I could go all day, outlast everybody. Those were good times. Definitely want to get back to that.
Yeah. And not only that, guys, I mean, the answer is always kind of like, well, I'll outlast everybody. I'll do that. But the other thing that when you're really working on your fitness, especially if it's tennis specific, another thing too, is you start to feel like I can make every shot because you're fit, your recognition and your senses are just so much more heightened that you just see the ball faster, you move to the ball faster, you make decisions faster, and you commit to your shots earlier. And when you're doing all that, you just play better. So it's not even just about, I want to be able to win those long matches. That's certainly another benefit, but you just have that confidence of I'm prepared for like every aspect of tennis that you need to perform the way that's going to make you proud of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And from talking to all the fitness experts and having them on Tennis Con and whatnot, what's like maybe one big fitness lesson that you learned?
Well, I think too is there is so much out there to learn. I grew up playing tennis. I was a really good player, for in the United States in junior tennis and all that kind of stuff. And I'd been through a lot of tennis training, but you can see that there's just so much more advancements in that area in functional training that when I do exercises with Mark Kovacs or Dean Hollingworth, like some of the things that they show, you're like, I've never even seen that before. Like, it's like, it humbles you. You're like, man, there's so many more things that you think you know it all. You don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could just be blown away by just seeing more and more exercises that I've never tried or seen. And so I think that's a good thing about, the people who watch these things and listen to these things is, if you get excited, if your why is, even if I can't do it all, I want to know it all, that could be another why you're playing tennis, like I can't do everything, but I want to know everything. And if that's your why, then that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I found with fitness that, I mean, less is more in the sense that, like I remember Dean talking about how, he could construct like a 30-minute warm up for his kids, but I mean, he just sticks to just a few basic ones that he knows the kids are more likely to do. Same with stretching and whatnot. So I think, making sure that whatever workout it is that you create is something that's manageable, that you will repeat consistently over time is definitely important versus like trying to create a hugely comprehensive one that you're likely to just give up on. So.
Well, that brings me to my next goal I have. Can I put that down?
Perfect segue. Yeah, go ahead.
It's finding the one thing. And I think, again, the more that you are a match player, that matches are important to you. Because at the end of the day, if you ask somebody, hey, what do you need to work on? Well, I need to work on everything. Like, especially as tennis players, we because there's so much you need to work on, we tend to feel pretty insecure. And so if you're like, everything needs to get better. But if you really focus on one thing that would be the biggest mover of the needle for you, it could just be fitness. It could be your serve. It could be your forehand. The one thing could also be improving a strength. It doesn't necessarily have to be a weakness. You could be like, man, my forehand's pretty good. If I could make it even that much better, I could totally dominate, especially if I play doubles. They can barely serve to my backhand. So if I just keep like getting my forehand more and more and more grooved, I could go out there and just dominate. You know what I mean? So, but it's finding that one thing that you need to focus on above everything else that's going to make the needle move the most for you. And then still work on the other things too. Like you can't ignore the entire gamut of tennis and expect out there just be working on one thing and still play great tennis. But if you give that high priority and know that that's what you're going to give a lot of time to and a lot of detail, then manageable than just like going, I need to work on every single aspect of my game just as hard and just as intense. And, you have to be realistic. You must have the time to dedicate to our game that the pros do. And that's okay too.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I often talk about like trying to find what'll give you the biggest return on investment. And part of that is really just like knowing your game, just like, what do I do well? What don't I do well? How do I win points, most often? How do I lose it and whatnot? And so, Pete, I know you don't like compete as much these days, even though, whenever I watch you play, you look great. But what do you think is like the year one that you would focus on, assuming that you like wanted to play a tournament?
Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's very interesting. So if I were to, like, my one thing I want the most, since I picked up the latest, would be a one-hand topspin backhand, right? But that's not the thing I need the most, So if I were to get back into it, the one thing that I would work on would be my serve and volley game. I would get back to serve and volleying, and so everything would be built around that. That's when I played my best tennis, and so I would get my serve and volley game going back, and then obviously what I'd need to do to be able to make that happen would be I'd have to get a lot more physically fit with my back, because that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pounding and jarring into the court. And that's just a risk as a coach I'm just not interested in taking. My fantasy would be like, oh, if I were to play in shape, then that's what I'd work on. That would make me the best player. But, the reality of what the work it would take to do that, it's too big a risk, because along the way of doing that, there's a very good chance I could do something on my back, and then I wouldn't be on the court helping, people listening to this, which is more important at this point in my life to do.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's your why and your goal. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, for me, it would definitely be my serve. And, as I mentioned, Pete was trying to help me with that, but that would be something, because, I've got a pretty heavy forehand that I can dictate points with. So like if I had a bigger serve to work with, then that would make things much easier. So yeah, and I'm sure everybody has theirs. So fantastic one. I mean, if you pick any of the ones today, which they're all really great, especially Pete's, I mean, this could be the one. That could really make a difference. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. We've gone through some great content today. Do you have any more on your list, Peter?
I have two more.
Oh, sweet.
More. And I'll go through, and I definitely want to go through them because I think they're really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number one, I heard this from Jim Lair, and it's this genius, and coaches, me, everybody really needs to work on this, because it also applies, as I heard this, I'm like, yeah, you got to be careful with your words. And that's working on the voice that no one hears. Jim Lair says, we all have the voice that no one hears, and what that is saying to us is so important. And a lot of times the voice that no one hears is super negative. Like, your serve is terrible. You're slow. You're this, you're that, or I can't believe you missed that. Oh, you're about to lose again. Like, that is so disruptive to being able to perform at a high level. So you've got to work on that and realize that if you say those things to yourself, again, that doesn't make you a bad person. That makes you normal. And to realize that it's just as hard to get those constantly flowing good thoughts going on in your mind as it is to, be able to hit a forehand in matches under pressure. There's a lot of work. That's what Novak Djokovic talks about. He likes doing the work. And I think the biggest thing that he's improved is his mental game. All the work that he did allowed him to believe that there's no limits. They asked him way back in the day when he first started to beat Federer and Nadal, like, what's the difference? And he said, I finally believed I could actually beat him. That's it. And so that goes to show how powerful the mind is. And lots of times we're just doing all the other stuff to get ourselves to buy into our own stuff, like doing all the work convinces you that, yes, you belong to be on this court. And so you got to really work on that. I think that's huge. That's one. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, it's huge. I mean, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of yourself. If you tell yourself all these negative things, I mean, your body will follow usually. So, and it's tough. I think I wrote about this in like a recent newsletter. Like I've had a bunch of these things happen to me where like I'm tossing the ball up and then my mind says you're going to double fault and, things like this, or you're not going to, and yeah, I'm just, I try to use a lot of different techniques and like in between point rituals, things like that. And I've been really fortunate that I haven't had those voices pop up in a while. I've been able to focus more, but, yeah, it's a commonality amongst a lot of players, and I think that's something you really got to work on. So you got to find a way, find a mentor or good instructor, be it online or physical, and try to work on that, because that's amazingly huge, and again separates the good from the great, and even the bad results from good and great results. So
yeah.
And
the final thing I have is to really ask yourself, and no, I mean, this should be a pretty straight answer for most of you out there. Are you a singles or a doubles player? Some of you play a good blend of both, but for the most part, you've made your decision. Like, I love singles. I don't want to have a partner. I've had a lot of people. I mean, people even in their 70s say, I don't want to play doubles. I like singles. When I can no longer play singles, I'm done with tennis. Like, they just love the idea of being out there. And then doubles, if you play doubles. And the reason why I'm saying is really know that is because everybody seems to be looking up the same generic videos, how to hit a forehand like Roger Federer, how to do most people are looking up singles videos on YouTube. And that's great to learn that stuff. But to me, it can be a big waste of time. If you're in a 3-5 league and you play 90% doubles, and you're not a master at the continental grip, maybe you don't even have to be a master of the continental grip off the serve yet. That needs to happen at 4.0, 4.5 and beyond. You've got to master continental grip on the serve. But I'm saying you can even have a frying pan grip still at 3.5. But if you're doing that on your volleys and on your returns and all that, then you are leaving a lot of wins on. Learn to get comfortable. Like every time the second serve comes, you can carve that ball deep. You can lob it over the opponent's head. You can hit little drop shots. You can come to the net and be like a surgeon and place your volleys away rather than just slamming them down constantly and then getting lobbed and passed. Then you're going to be a lot happier on the court. That's going to go a lot further than trying to hit a forehand that looks like exactly like Roger Federer, and you're stuck back there at the baseline. That's not going to, like we say, the one thing that's not going to be moving the needle for you as much as actually developing a continental grip. So really tailoring your game around what you're playing. Are you playing singles or are you playing doubles? And if you're playing doubles, work on more doubles skills than singles skills, and you'll do better on the doubles court. Crazy how that might work.
Yeah, great one. I mean, for myself, I consider myself more of a singles player, even though I played, heavily much more doubles because of USCA leagues. But I mean, I factor that into, how I strategically play doubles because, my forehand's the big thing. So I might not go to the net as much as a doubles player would, who their strength is our volleys and whatnot. So, very important and a great thing to think about, and a fun thing to think about too, to help you on your journey toward improvement. I love that. Peter, wasn't there one other thing that you wanted to maybe also?
Well, the big bonus goal that everybody should want to do is come to see Mehrban at Innisbrook Resort near Tampa Bay, the first annual Tennis Con live, to where if you've watched the Tennis Summit and then Tennis Con and you like what you see online, you're going to love it in person, because Mehrban's going to be there coaching with us. and we're going to do a cool
Can't wait.
session together on mastering the mid court. And he's doing some other great sessions. And we have Gigi Fernandez, who won 17-time Grand Slam champion. We all know Gigi; she's a legend. She's going to be at TennisCon Live. Kevin from Total Tennis Domination, who is outstanding player and coach, is going to be there. Carousel, who is probably the best player on video right now, I'd say, teaching tennis online. But if you watch his videos, once you see him hit, you're like, wow, the guy's good. When you listen to him talk, you're like, this guy loves to coach and he's pretty awesome at it. And so he's going to be there. Another amazing coach is Ryan Reedy from 2 Minute Tennis. He's another outstanding coach. Jorge Capistani, one of the very few people in the world who is a master pro USPTA PDR. And John Craig from Performance Tennis is going to be there. Like it is an all-star lineup. And we're going to be doing that March 30th through April 2nd. So Mehrban, I'm sure in the email or wherever you're watching this podcast, we'll have the link to where you can apply. And we'd love to see you on the court. We'll have a 4-to-1 ratio on the court too, which is going to be great.
Yeah, just incredible. Really, really excited for this. I can't tell you how much I am excited for it. I mean, to actually have this event live and seeing you and Gigi and all the great instructors and teaching people as well with you. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. I've personally, had some people on my subscriber list like asked me like, oh, do you do like a live camp or anything like that? And I was like, I told them, I'll let you know like if I ever do something when I do it. And I mean, this is a great opportunity to come to a really cool place with really cool people, passionate tennis players and coaches alike. So definitely will leave the link for you on the show notes page. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be tennisfiles.com/tennisconlive. So that's tennisfiles.com/tennisconlive again. Yeah, excited for that, Pete, and I can't wait to be with you all. Is there anything else you want to talk about about the event and let the people know about?
Well, just that it's going to be jam-packed with tennis. If you love tennis and you want to improve your game, I think you're just going to love it. I myself, as a tennis fan, am looking forward to being with all the great coaches. And every time I'm around the players, I actually get inspired because just to see how much people out there love tennis who come to these things and the time that we have, it's just really, really great. And so we'll be on the court. We'll be eating meals together. You guys will have a really cool resort style kind of 4 days where you're staying. And so yeah, it's going to be first class all the way. So if you're interested, just definitely apply. And we'd love to see you on the court.
Yeah, and you've already got a bunch of applicants. I know we've talked about, how it's been going so far. So, yeah, excited. And again, definitely check it out and check out the link and apply for sure. So, Peter, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Always so much fun to talk to you. Any final thoughts that you might want to leave the audience with, or an action item or anything like that before we part ways temporarily?
Well, yeah, I think it's important to write a lot of this stuff down. And maybe once you get writing, you might start writing a lot of stuff down. And that's fine. And then once you do that, allow your mind, don't limit your mind. Allow your mind to think and to think big and write a lot of stuff down. But then once you do that, then just don't leave it like that, because then you might end up just again overwhelming yourself. Then once you do that, then narrow the list down and make it simple and really draw out a plan of how you're going to accomplish your why and make it into something that is realistic and manageable for the amount of time that you have to dedicate to the game. Everybody's got a different timetable of how much they can actually play and what they can do. And so make sure that your why will match up with what you can do. Make sure the why and the do can match up, and then you can do some great things on the court next year.
Love that, Pete. And also, I'll try to summarize the goals that we talked about real quick, just so I'm. Usually people ask that for that. So, what I wrote down was number one is write down what your why is. Number 2 is make it a goal to enjoy the process. Number 3, stretch your comfort zone. Number 4, Pete, if you want to rephrase, let me know. But I wrote down to improve yourself, go through progressions, like shadow strokes, drop feeds, and also film yourself. Very important. Another great one that Pete said is do drills to break your rhythm, because tennis is not a rhythm sport. And then focus on your number one thing to work on. Work on the inner voice that no one else hears. And then ask yourself whether you're a singles or a doubles player. And then a very important one, and the last one, is go to TennisCon Live and join us in March of 2023.
Mehrban, I have no doubt after hearing that you got all A's in school.
I mean, I was a decent student,
I have no doubt you were a great student.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
What was your GPA in high school?
It was kind of weird. It was like, it was above a 4.0, but that's only because there was like some extra credit stuff involved.
So, I rest my case.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Yeah, but it was complicated. I mean, adjusted maybe it would be like a high 3, like over 3.6, or I don't know. But anyways,
whatever.
Yeah,
you got over 4.0. You got over a 4.0. Just own it. Just take it. I just saw what a good student you are just by the way you did that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The way you broke that down and wrote it down, I'm like, this dude was an all-A student. There's no question.
Yeah, I got a strict mom in particular for the studies, so had to perform.
Well, she did a good job.
I could
did a good job.
Thank you. And I could tell, Peter, that you were a student.
Right.
No. I mean, you're clearly a driven guy, I can tell, and very kind and giving, and that's why we love you. So. Yeah. That's what I could tell. But Peter, thank you. It's great. And I'm sure we'll speak again soon in some sort of format. So thank you. And again, check us out at TennisCon Live in Tampa, March 30th to April 2nd at tennisfiles.com/TennisCon Live. Thank you, Peter. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Be well.
It's a lot of fun, as always.
All right. I hope that you really enjoyed this discussion about the top 8 tennis goals that you should have for 2023 with my great friend, Peter Freeman. Pete, as always, thanks so much for coming on to the show. I definitely look forward to creating more content with you. And I definitely would love to see you, as we mentioned, at TennisCon Live from March 30th to April 2nd. And you can apply to that at tennisfiles.com/TennisCon Live. And I'm really excited to go there and hopefully see you if you can make it. With that, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a rating for the show on your favorite podcast app of choice, such as Apple Podcasts. And you can go to tennisfiles.com/Apple Podcasts. Do that. Also want to leave you with a quote, as I do at the end of every show. And this quote is by John Wooden. And John said, "Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable." That's a really great one by the legendary John Wooden. Certainly when I know that I've worked hard, then I am much more peaceful and confident than when I know that I have not worked hard and I'm tested. So it reminds me of JTCC's quote as well, motto, trust your training. So definitely want to make sure that you're giving it 100% or as close to it as possible so that you can then feed off the confidence from that effort. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. And as usual, we're looking forward to having you listen to more great content, whether it's on the podcast, YouTube, or other platforms. So thanks so much. Go to tennisfiles.com/TennisCon Live to join us once again in Tampa from March 30th to April 2nd. And have a fantastic day. Keep improving your tennis game. And I'll talk to you next time.